Welcome to My Hometown, the program that explores clubs, organizations, businesses, and issues across Nassau and Suffolk counties and sheds light on the different towns that are making a difference.
Hello and welcome to My Hometown. I'm Bill Horan, along with my co-host, Nassau Community College student Corey Kaufman, coming to you live once again via Zoom and being socially distant as recommended.
Today we're going to talk about a nonprofit organization called Live in Light Institute, which is a global initiative trying to erase the stigma of mental health conditions while providing access to reliable resources and raising the standard of care.
Today we welcome Danielle Kirk, the founder and president of Live in Light Institute. Danielle, welcome to My Hometown on the voice of Nassau Community College 90.3 WHPC.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure.
Now, Danielle, we want to learn about your organization, but first, I hope you're doing well in light of the pandemic. And can we ask you, has this affected you personally in your life or your family life?
Of course. In fact, I don't know anybody who has not been incredibly impacted by the pandemic and what's happening. For myself personally, I live in New York City and I live by myself. And that level of severe isolation was simply becoming too much for me. So I wound up coming out to Long Island, and I'm staying with a dear childhood friend of mine and his family. And it's made all the world a difference. And so we're quarantining together, and they have 3 young children. So it actually works out wonderful because I'm helping them with the children and their schoolwork, because both mom and dad are executives and they're working from home. We're all working from home, but I'm actually helping them with the children. So it wound up being a win-win situation for everyone.
I was just going to say that's something we should have on the news even in the evenings, because it sounds like you've turned a negative into a very positive and really a win-win for everybody.
Exactly. You know, the old adage, when life throws you lemons, make lemonade.
Sounds like you did a good job of that, Corey.
Speaking of COVID-19, how has the quarantine affected people's mental health?
So we're seeing a lot of this, and there's a lot of conversation in the media about this and focus on mental health. As you know, social isolation is devastating to the human psyche, which is why solitary confinement is considered one of the worst of punishments. There have been hotlines that have been set up in every state for people having a tough time with quarantine. And basic cultural practices have been eliminated, like the handshake is dead. Well, the whole handshake concept, I don't know if it'll even ever come back. The way we interact with each other has changed drastically. We're wired for human interaction, and when we don't get it, many things happen, which includes anxiety, depression, erratic sleep patterns, increased substance abuse, and also paranoia can happen when you just simply are spending too much time by yourself. So it's actually been very, in a way, coming from the Live in Light Institute, it's been we're very hopeful now because of the pandemic, the mental health conversation has come to the forefront, and we're hearing more and more about it in the media, which is very helpful to destigmatizing mental health conditions.
So, Danielle, I'll be honest with you, this is the first time I've heard of Live in Light Institute. Can you tell us more about it? Is it a physical location? Is it at multiple locations?
Sure. It's a global initiative. So I spent all of last year, we just launched. So this is something that's really important to point out. We launched in January. We officially launched in January, and then the pandemic hit. So everything is sort of in a holding pattern, and I'm telling my staff, like, just stay patient, much like when you're on a plane and you're due to land, but for whatever reasons you can't land and you're in a holding pattern, kind of circling the airport and waiting for it to be okay to land. That's exactly where the Live in Light Institute is right now. We're all prepared. We have everything aligned, but with the initial descent, they actually kept us in a holding pattern. But this has been a couple of years in the making, and I actually spent all of last year, which is something I really wanted to point out to your audience, that I spent 10 out of the 12 months of 2019 traveling throughout Europe, Africa, the Middle East, and India to understand the cross-cultural nuances of mental health stigma. And it was a really fascinating experience because the original pandemic is mental health. And it's insidious. So it's not something that we were talking about. But from hundreds of years ago, we've been dealing with this for centuries, but nobody is talking about it. It's like this clandestine pandemic throughout the world that it's dealt with in such compromised ways in certain countries, and then very progressive ways in others. So I saw the spectrum because, like I said, mental health conditions throughout the world are very impactful. The CDC says that 25% of the world's population will have a mental health crisis in their lifetime. 25% of
That's
the
1
world's
out of 4, right?
population.
Is my
Correct.
math correct? Okay. And by the way,
Yep.
Danielle, I just want to repeat what I think I heard you say. Did you say you spent the last 10 out of 12 months going to 4 different continents to study this and set up this institute?
Yes.
Wow.
Exactly.
Very impressive. And I thought I heard you say that. And then I said, gee, that's a lot of traveling, a lot of work, and
Yes.
a massive undertaking. Let's put it that way.
Yes.
And also, much to what you said, if I break my arm, well, I can see it, or I can see that the neighbor broke his or her arm because it's in a cast or they're walking with a cane or something. But mental health, I guess, as you said, we really don't see that. So we could look up and down the block and everybody looks the same. And yet, I guess based on the numbers, 1 out of 4 is suffering in some way.
Correct. It's interesting that you make that analogy because I've often said that mental health conditions is essentially an invisible wheelchair. You would never walk over to someone in a wheelchair, paraplegic, and say, "Hey, come on out of the chair and come for a walk." You can blatantly see the person is incapable of getting up and going for a walk with you, right? You would never ask a paraplegic to go for a walk. Yet with mental health issues, because there's so much misinformation, there's not enough public education. Oftentimes when someone even has the courage to say that they're depressed and they can't get up, people are like, "Oh, you're stronger than that. Just pull yourself up. You'll get through this. This too shall pass," etc., etc. People don't understand that when someone is severely depressed, it's a miracle for them to even get out of bed to take care of themselves.
I'm already learning a lot from what you're telling us, Corey.
So tell us a little bit about your worldwide trip. What was the inspiration to create the Live in Light Institute?
So the Live in Light Institute was created based upon my own struggles with depression. Over the course of 18 years, I survived 8 near-death episodes, 2 traumas, and 6 suicidal depressions. So I've been through a lot, and it's from that whole journey that I realized that something needs to be done about this, because while there are resources that are wonderful, available, most people who are suffering don't even know about the resources, because oftentimes they don't even know that they're suffering. Back to the invisible wheelchair analogy, if you have a cut or if you have something physical happening to you, you can address it. But oftentimes people that are suffering with a mental health condition are trying to just push themselves through. As I mentioned in my Huffington Post article, which I published a couple of years ago, it was always me pushing myself, saying, you're the grandchild of Holocaust survivors. Your family went through way worse than you. How dare you even think of staying in bed? Get up and get out and get to work. And sometimes it would work, and most often it didn't. And I spent many, many years hiding in shame over what I was struggling with. And then finally I went to inpatient treatment program for depression. And that is where I was really inspired to create the Live in Light Institute, when I learned so much about mental health, about addiction, and realized that there needs to be some sort of a bridge between the population and with the resources that are available, the reliable resources that are available. So that was the inspiration. With regards to the trip, I lived out of my suitcase for 10 months and really wanted to understand what and how people are handling mental health issues throughout the world. Because when I saw the number from the CDC that 25% of the world's population will have a mental health crisis in their lifetime, that means that the entire world is affected by mental health. Because if you yourself are not in some sort of a crisis, then someone close to you is. And therefore you're impacted as well, whether it's a family member or a good friend or a colleague at work. Everyone is impacted by mental health. And I said, we've got a pandemic here that nobody's talking about. No one is talking about this. It's sort of like under the rug. And friends of mine, who, when I was very open about my issues with depression, a lot of people started coming to me, a lot of friends and family members saying, like, you're so brave to do this. I've struggled with X, Y, and Z. A lot of friends' children would come to me. And then all of a sudden, everyone who I thought was totally healthy, all of a sudden, everybody started opening up. And I'm saying to myself, wait a second, we're onto something here. Because when people feel safe enough to open up and talk about their struggles with mental health, we can normalize the conversation, and then everybody can get the help that they need.
Danielle, is there I guess we call it a stigma against talking about mental health, doing something about it, or even bringing it up that someone in your family had it?
It's not necessarily someone in my family had it. It was more so society, if you will. All you need, just the cultural nuances of mental health stigma are widespread, right? So here, growing up in New York, a lot of times you hear about someone, oh, she's crazy, or this one is so bipolar, or oh, that person is a raging alcoholic, or whatever. And it's always very negative. It's always disparaging. It's always like a character attack on the person because they're not strong enough to get through something. And you pick up on these cultural attitudes towards mental health. And then you realize, well, this isn't really a safe environment for me to talk about whatever it is I'm struggling with.
Danielle, I was going to ask you, for our audience, if someone says, oh my gosh, Danielle is describing me or my husband or my son, how do they get in touch with you? is there a location they go to? Do they call you? Is there a
sure. The
email?
Best thing to do, yeah, sure. The best thing to do is go to the website, which is liliglobal.org. That's LILI global.org. And they can see all the media information we have there and contact me directly through the website, and I'm happy to provide resources. I actually have several resources specifically for your listeners right now. If you're in New York actually has set up its own website for people who are struggling with the pandemic, and that's nyc.gov/NYC-well. And that's probably the best way of getting immediate help if you're struggling with issues around the pandemic.
You are listening to My Hometown on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC. My name is Corey Kaufman, along with Bill Horan, and today we're We're talking about a nonprofit organization called Live in Light Institute, which is a global initiative trying to erase the stigma of mental health conditions while providing access to reliable resources and raising the standard of care. With our guest, Danielle Kirk, the founder and president of the Live in Light Institute. So, how can we erase the stigma? What is the Live in Light Institute doing to help erase the stigma, again, towards mental health?
Sure. Public education is number one priority for us in terms of speaking events and getting the whole public conversation out there. When we talk more about mental health conditions and it's part of the media, and as I mentioned earlier, because of the pandemic and because of the stresses around the pandemic and that everyone is going through, I'm seeing that the mental health conversation is actually becoming normalized. Chris Cuomo was on his show and he was talking about the suicidal ideation that he was having as a result of COVID. And then he also talks about other people that are going through tremendous stress, and people are very anxious, they're scared, they're getting depressed. Even people that don't have a history with mental health issues are facing this, because this is uncharted territory for everyone. So education is number one, and also how we talk about mental health issues is really important. For instance, no one would ever tell a diabetic, hey, you don't need insulin to control your condition. Yet people are most often judgmental about those who need medication to balance their brain chemistry. Unfortunately, we've seen major spikes in levels of mental health conditions, which include addiction, due to the pandemic. As a result, the mental health conversation has come to the forefront. I believe this conversation will only become stronger as the months pass due to all the compounding stressors of the pandemic.
Danielle, are there certain, I know you talk about language being a very important component in erasing the stigma. Are there certain words or phrases or sentences that typical people like myself or Corey may use on a daily basis, not even realizing that we're enhancing it rather than trying to erase it?
That's a great question. Thank you for asking. Instead of saying he is mentally ill, you can say he has a mental health condition. You would never hear anyone say he is a heart condition or he is a heart attack. No, it's he has a heart condition. So it immediately distinguishes it that this is a condition of the brain, just like diabetes is a condition of the pancreas. Mental health conditions are conditions of the brain. Example, suicide needs to be eliminated from the dictionary because it implies agency. You would never expect someone who's inebriated to drive a car safely. They can't control their actions because the biochemistry of their brain is so impacted by the alcohol. As such, brain chemistry imbalance can cause someone to, quote, take their life. So instead of saying he or she committed suicide, you can say he or she died from depression or from a mental health condition.
Got it. Thank you. Appreciate that. Corey?
Can you provide some tips for people who aren't feeling well as a result of the quarantine?
Yes. Talk to your friends and family as often as you can. As I mentioned, human connection, especially now with the lockdown and quarantining and social distancing and everything that's tearing us away from each other, you have to make an extra effort to actually connect. Limit your news to 30 minutes a day. And I know that can be a challenge, if you will, but try to limit the news exposure to 30 minutes a day. Because when you hear about everything that's going on in the news, and then you're by yourself or you're only with your family or whomever you're with to quarantine with, it can start this spiral of negativity. And the next thing you know, you're like, you can have this catastrophic reaction. So make sure to limit the news to 30 minutes a day. Don't be so hard on yourself during this time. We're in unprecedented times, so don't beat yourself up for not being as productive as you want to be, or for gaining a little weight, or whatever that is, quote unquote, not the norm for you. Don't beat yourself up. We all need to recognize that kindness, both to yourself and others right now, is imperative to get through this. The Spanish flu eventually passed, so will COVID. But unlike 100 years ago, we have incredible technology that will help develop a vaccine fast. So this is not going to be forever. This is just for now, but it will pass.
Danielle, I love that point that you made. And just so you know, even before you said it, I started doing that myself because I found the more I'm watching or hearing, and of course you just turn on the radio, the TV, almost every channel, I try to make it a point to either watch a comedy show, even if it's an old one, or rerun, something to divert my mind and get it in a different direction. Now, can you tell us, how does someone know if they're just sad? I mean, we all have a bad day. We wake up, we hear a sad song or remember something. How do we know if we're just sad or stressed a bit, and then if that goes into what experts might call depression?
Sad is feeling bad about something, and it lifts within a few days to a week. Depression is prolonged sadness where you can't will yourself or distract yourself from it. It leads to self-medication, like alcohol, shopping, etc., and or the inability to function daily. The regular everyday tasks, like getting out of bed, showering, and getting dressed for the day, seem so impossible because you just want to stay in bed. Depression can get worse if not treated, leading to fantasies of suicide, which is called suicidal ideation. So, life is energy, and either you're moving forward or either you're progressing or regressing. Nothing is stagnant. So if you're not feeling well and it's over a week that you're just really sad all the time, you really need to reach out to your doctor.
Great point. Corey?
So adults deal with mental health differently than children are. And right now, children are stuck at home. They're not at school, and that's their main source of like social interaction. This isolation has been hitting children really hard, and they don't really know exactly what's going on because they're not watching the news all the time. So why are children so hard hit by mental health conditions?
Great question. Even before the pandemic, it's important to point out that even before the pandemic, the number one cause of death for children ages 10 to 24 is from a mental health condition. And I think it's a combination of variables, but basically it comes down to lifestyle. Video games, social media, and devices have shifted the focus from playing outside with friends to staying indoors and using the devices. Kids are more socially isolated and not as physically active as 20 years ago. And now it's compounded with the pandemic where they don't even have the option of going out and playing with their friends. So now it's become even more alarming, if you will, because we were already in bad shape prior to the pandemic with the children. So as much interaction as you can get for the kids over Zoom with their friends and activities that they can play with their friends over Zoom would be fantastic. And of course, things are now easing. I'm happy to see that many of the day camps are actually going to have camp. And that'll be huge for young children. For older children, teenagers and young adults, it's really, really the same thing with seeing their friends as often as possible over Zoom meets and FaceTime. And that basic social interaction is really, really important by whatever venues you can do it.
Right.
Danielle, can you tell us the difference between some of the mental health professionals, such as a psychiatrist, psychologist, therapist? Can you give us just a brief definition of each one of those?
Sure. So a psychiatrist is an MD, a doctor of psychiatry, who is permitted to provide medication and can help with the biochemistry of the brain and help from a medical biochemical standpoint. A psychologist or therapist is somebody who can help with issues, challenges that you're facing in daily life that you want to talk to the person about, and can help you work through any challenges. So ideally, when you have a mental health condition, ideally you'll work with a psychiatrist and a psychologist to have that added support when you're going through challenges.
And Danielle, once again, would you tell our audience that, you've been explaining the parameters of mental health, but if someone feels there's a need, or either a spouse I guess it's a friend who usually calls, or how do they get in touch with you? What's the best way to get the ball rolling? Sure.
The best way to reach me is through the website, which is liliglobal.org, liliglobal.org. You can contact me through the website, and I will return the communication within 24 hours, guaranteed.
And of course, when you say Lily, that's for the Live in Light Institute, correct?
Correct.
And is there a physical Live in Light Institute, or do you direct someone to go to a different doctor or therapist when they call?
Yeah, we are a resource. We're a resource. There's no therapist in an office under the Live in Light Institute. Right now, we're just an umbrella organization providing reliable resources. So we can help you find the right resources in your area based upon whatever it is you're suffering with.
Danielle, you've been very instructive today. Thank you so much for all the information you've given us. We'd like to let our audience know that today we've been speaking with Danielle Kirk. She's the founder and president of the Live in Light Institute. Danielle, please keep up the amazing work that you're doing, and know that WHPC is here to provide support in any way we can.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, Danielle. I'd like our audience to know that I'm Bill Horan. As usual, I'm here with Corey Kaufman. We thank you for listening to this week's special edition of My Hometown.
We like to get your feedback on My Hometown. Send your comments to whpc@ncc.edu. Nassau Community College, where success starts and continues. Till next time, this is Bill St. James. And remember, there's no town like your hometown.